Did you ever have the toxic person in your life come back into the relationship after a huge argument, after a big blow up, or even after you've taken a break? You might have had this where this person was cheating, or this person was lying to you, or this person had a giant reaction and a giant rageful moment and came back in the door later and acted like it wasn't a big deal. Acted like you might have been the crazy one because of what had just happened and how you responded. And oftentimes people will see this in narcissistic relationships that will make you feel crazy, will make you feel like there's something wrong with you because this person just had this huge blow up, huge interaction, huge response, and then a couple minutes later it seems like nothing's wrong. Well, today we want to kind of talk through some of this and have you understand pieces of how the narcissist will come back into your life or back into the relationship after they've walked out and will act like nothing's happened at all, to be able to avoid different pieces of accountability, responsibility, and still maintain control. If you guys are new here, my name is Ben Taylor. I'm a self-aware narcissist on this channel to provide awareness, growth, healing, change, and development. I'm the founder of Raw Motivations and your guide in the Escape Toxicity Challenge. You can access that at escapetoxicity.com today. Our goal is to try to help people break free out of narcissistic abuse, continue to move and grow and develop into the person that they are called to be. A lot of times people can't do that when they're put through the crazy making of being with a toxic person, of being with a narcissist. Well, when this happens, a lot of times you'll see this aspect of when a narcissist comes back into the relationship or back in after an argument, they act like there's been no harm done. They act like, hey, it's okay. It's not that big of a deal. This puts you in a state oftentimes of confusion and frustration, being like, wait a second, like this just happened. You just screamed at me. You just cheated on me. You just did this. Like, do you not just see what just happened? And it's often discounted and kind of pushed to the side, making you feel like it's not that big of a deal. The hard part is being able to see the difference, because over a period of time, you'll start to believe an alternate version of reality. You start to believe what the narcissist is saying versus what's being demonstrated. How does this actually affect you? Well, when the narcissist comes back in and you're completely confused and you're completely like, wait a second, you just screamed at me, you just yelled at me, it starts to affect you mentally through the manipulation, through the gaslighting that the narcissist is putting on you. That didn't happen. It's not that big a deal. It's like this idea of coming back into the relationship and making you feel like you make a big deal out of just responding to what actually happened before. Sometimes this will start to promote this emotional turmoil inside of you. Make you start to doubt and question yourself of like, did that actually happen? Was this actually a big deal? And it starts to affect your own decisions, your own deciding properties of like, hey, how am I going to show up on everything in my life, not just in this relationship? Starts to eat away at your confidence. Maybe it was me. Maybe I didn't think through that. Maybe I'm just bad at communicating. And even to the place where you start to work on your communication, or you start to work on things you need to do to get better because the other person is always telling you it's your fault. This emotional turmoil keeps boiling up more and more and more and makes you feel discounted for everything that has ever happened to you. For all the hurt that this person's caused, all the damage that's been there, like you have to be able to excuse it away because they're not making it a big deal. Why should you? This produces more of a strain, more of a frustration because you're like, I don't know what to believe. You start to struggle with authenticity of like, is this relationship actually real? Is he actually being real? Like, am I being real? Like, it starts to make you doubt all different aspects. You start to lose this piece of trust. You start to doubt yourself. A lot of times this impaired decision-making, like from thinking about this and how the narcissist responds to you, starts to affect every single aspect of your life. From what grocery store you go to what products you pick up, to what decision you make in business, to what person you fire, to what child you discipline and how you discipline. It starts to affect everything when you start to doubt your reality. Narcissists are great at making you doubt your reality, doubt what's actually happening. And like, I need you to be able to understand that there is an opportunity to be able to move to a place where you no longer doubt that, where you're no longer stuck in the fog, the fear, the obligation, the guilt. You're no longer stuck in the things keeping you trapped in this thought of like, I don't know what to believe. Being able to help see through the fog is only split through the fog with truth. of understanding clarity, reality, what is actually true. What are the cold, hard facts about this situation? Because otherwise, the narcissist will continue to blame you, continue to project on you, continue to do a lot of different things to make you think that it's your fault when it's actually not, when it has nothing to do with that. But the narcissist will want to make you think that. Now, oftentimes, let's say you have a giant argument. The narcissist comes back in and he acts like nothing's wrong at all. He's like, okay, what's for dinner? And you're like, did you not just remember just screaming and yelling at me, just having this big ordeal, this big argument? He's like, it's not that big of a deal. What he's slowly doing and training you at this point is training you to minimize your feelings, minimize the emotions, and minimize the response that you're actually giving to him. Like, your response now is going to seem over the top. It's going to seem extra. It's going to seem like it's too much because he's discounting it because it wasn't that big of a deal to him, right? Well, the whole reason why the narcissist is doing this is to be able to push your feelings and emotions down and to stay in control of the situation. He knows that it's a big deal. That's why he's actually ignoring it. Did you hear that? The narcissist knows that it's a big deal. That's why he's ignoring it. You don't have narcissists that are willing to confront the issues and the problems at hand. Instead, they want to avoid it. Avoid shame, avoid guilt, avoid accountability, avoid responsibility. So the fact that he's actually ignoring that you just had this giant argument and then he's walking back in the door being like, hey, what's for supper? That means he actually knows. You're like, how does that even make sense? Because the narcissist is running away from it. They're running away from the accountability, the responsibility of actually owning up and saying, hey, this is actually me. This is what I actually did. Like, you have to be able to understand that until you actually see this and connect the dots, the narcissist will keep doing this over and over and over again, slowly training you to accept their version of reality by gaslighting, accepting their version of reality versus the truth of the situation. So you have to be able to start breaking it down and understand, like, first and foremost, like, hey, what is actually true? Like, we just had this giant argument and this person does not want to take accountability for it. Big red flag. Like, what is actually true in this relationship about you making good decisions? Can he make good decisions? Has his decisions affected you? What is this back and forth? Like, being able to get down to the truth is necessary for your growth and for your development. But this also comes with a mindset shift of being able to realize that this person does not dictate your reality, because this person will continue to manipulate and mold and develop you to look and to act a certain way so that he can get what he wants, oftentimes putting you down more and more and more so that he feels better about himself. Now, narcissists are running away from this aspect of guilt and shame. People are like, narcissists don't feel guilt, narcissists don't feel shame. Okay, they do. But it's only smaller and it's only minute because it has to get compartmentalized. It has to get moved to the side as quick as possible. So when the narcissist feels this, they have to be able to shove it down. They have to be able to compartmentalize it, box it up, and put it back in the dark recesses of their mind so they're not actually accountable for the things they just did. Like, you have to be able to understand when you get to this place, narcissists will box up so many different things. It will make you feel crazy because you're reacting and responding to things when they're just standing there. And you're like, you're freaking out. You're going crazy. You're like, wait a second, like, this just happened. And they're like, what are you talking about? It's not that big of a deal. This whole aspect is a power play. And the fact that the narcissist ignores it means they also know, because they're avoiding the accountability there. They're avoiding what's actually happening in the relationship to try to feel better about themselves and to not actually own up to the things that are happening. A narcissist will continue to try to minimize your feelings, your emotions, try to make you feel like you're the crazy one by bringing up things that are naturally a problem, that are naturally affecting you on a day-to-day basis. But he'll try to minimize that so that it actually doesn't look that way, so it actually doesn't come across that way, so that he can get away from the accountability, the responsibility. Did you see this in your relationship? This idea of, like, let me get away from the accountability and the responsibility, like, no matter what. Let me run away from this as quick as possible. The whole goal and the whole aspect is trying to be able to avoid that so the narcissist doesn't have to deal with the shame, doesn't have to deal with the accountability, doesn't have to deal with the fact that they're the ones that actually caused the problem. If the narcissist can minimize it and say, oh, I didn't cause the problem, and you don't continue to bring it up, then you're like, oh, they accept it. The more and more the narcissist will do this to you and you accept it by not actually holding them accountable for their actions, the more it will perpetuate. The more it will continue happening over and over and over again. As a result, this will lead you down the road where the abuse ramps up, where it gets worse in multiple ways, whether that's just mentally or emotionally or also physically. Continuing to see it ramp up. And the more he leaves the relationship and comes back into the relationship, the more it will get worse. Like this aspect of getting to a place where acting like nothing happened is a game. Like for me, I wanted to make sure that I showed up like nothing happened so that my wife would not continue to bring it up. I didn't want her to bring it up. It exposed me. It exposed the stuff that I was doing. It exposed how I was being rude. It exposed how I was acting. So like I wanted to be able to minimize it and put it to the side. So as a result, I'd come in and I'd act like nothing happened at all. Like, why are you acting this way? Why are you making a big deal? Trying to make all these excuses to manipulate away from the conversation so that I didn't have to be accountable for what's going on. Narcissists will come back into your life multiple times after arguments, after breakup, acting like nothing ever happened to manipulate you back into a place where your feelings, your emotions are invalidated and they're back in control over you. If you want to start getting free from this, you can click the link in the bio and go to escapetoxicity.com to start our 7-day challenge for $7 to help you move forward in understanding narcissistic abuse, reactive abuse, how to start getting free. If you want to work with me one-on-one in more of an accelerated environment in our coaching program, you can go to rawmotivations.com. Would love to be able to talk to you there and see if you'd be a good fit. But you can go to www.rawmotivations.com. Thank you so much. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, share. So we're trying to help people understand more about narcissistic abuse and how narcissists act and how they make life seem really crazy to you, even though you haven't done anything wrong in that point.